So let's have a look at using OCI Vision in Python. So there's a few libraries we need to import into our Python environment. Plus there's also some of the typical Python libraries we need to use. So I've set up a directory and I have a number of directories here with images in each one. So what I'm going to look at is the first set of image classification, which is to do with identifying dogs and cats. So I have some directory set up with some images that are used in that, and I would have created the model earlier, so look at the previous images for that. So here's an example of one of the images that I'm going to bring in. It's of a particular dog. He's quite a nice dog out in the background in a field. But it isn't just those dogs. I have lots of other ones. Here are some examples of some cats, some dogs, so different types of scenarios on it. So I can actually run the model against all of those. So there's a little bit of setup that needs to be done, and this is going to be unique for each person and for your own cloud accounts. All of these ones will, if you're looking at this now in the video, they're going to be different and changed now because they're going to be disabled. But we need to set up your the OCI, your fingerprint, your tenancy, your region, and there's also a key file that you need to be able to bring in relation to that. It also has a lot of the similar information, but these are helps to configure your environment and being able to show that you're connecting to your own cloud account. Two other things that are necessary. So it's just defining your compartment ID and then the endpoint that you're going to use. And this endpoint is going to be similar in most cases to what you're going to be using, based on where your cloud region is. And then we initialize the cloud service client. And what we can do then is we can tell it what projects, for what compartment. So this is where we're going to look at, what have I set up here. So at this point in time, it only has 3 projects in there. There would have been more in it at various different times. So we can see what projects we have. And then we can actually look at some of the more finer level detail on what are the project IDs, what's the OCID, for each of the different models that we have within the project. So here's for one particular case, here's the different models that I actually have in this particular account. Okay, so once we've identified some of that information, the next thing that we can get on to is looking at what is the model I'm going to use. So we need to be able to not just the compartment ID and the endpoint, but we also need to define what the model is. And from there, what we can do is we can pass that information in along with the image that we want to be able to process. And it'll go off, send the image across to the cloud service. The cloud service will process it and will return a set of results. Now, because the model that we're actually using is an object detection model, it will actually send back the X and Y coordinates for the bounding box for that particular object. Now, as part of that, we can also see that it's identified that it's a dog, okay, rather than a cat in this particular scenario. So there's just a few ways of being able to list out those results. Once we've gotten the bounding box results back, then we can look at applying it to the image, right? And as part of that, we can actually go and draw the bounding box scenario on it. Now, there's a few approaches that you can actually use to create this. So there's some built-in functions, or you can actually map it out yourself, which probably gives you more control and benefit over it. So let me just refresh that, and what we get is the bounding box. Because we're using CV2, we can actually change the width and thickness of those box lines, and also for the text lines that are actually there as well. Now, we also built, I also built an image classification model rather than an object detection one. So we just changed the model ID. We do similar processing. We get the image. We have to do some additional processing on that just to get it ready. And then, we will do pretty much the exact same call that we did for the object detection. And this time what we get back is slightly different information. This is where we start getting is, for all the different labels that we had defining that model, we'll get back, what's the value along with the predicted kind of confidence in relation to this. And when we look at this, we see that it has a confidence level of nearly 88% for dogs and 11% for cats. So in this particular case, the image is of a dog.